A New York Times article went out 2 days ago about Gwen Walz, who is the wife of Tim Walz, the vice presidential candidate for the Democratic Party, and it reads, at a May 2019 forum at Twin Cities Public Television promoting a PBS documentary about the Barred Prison Initiative, the atmosphere turned tense after Ms. Walz and other panelists seemed unprepared to discuss the racial dynamics of the criminal justice system. And one of the main reasons we were discussing the racial dynamics of the carceral system is because of me. I was hosting that forum. So I was hired by Twin Cities Public Television to moderate a forum in May of 2019 about a documentary made by PBS called Education Behind Bars. At least that's what it was called at the time. And in moderating the forum, it was recorded. There was a giant audience in the studio, downtown Twin Cities Public Television Studios, PBS. And essentially, there were two panels. The first panel was the director of the film, and the second panel had Ms. Walz and some other people. And these are all people like very, very, very high up in their departments. And for me, I asked a few questions with the director off the bat in the first panel after we saw a little bit of the film. And I said, what do you think the impact of a documentary is like this? What do you think the impact of this documentary is when it shows almost an all-black population of inmates while showing an almost all non-black population of staff and educators? What do you think the impact is when this film shows that but never explicitly addresses it? To which the director then said, well, you haven't seen the whole film. And I was taken a little bit back, as well as some of the audience members were, and you could hear some laughing or some, because we didn't think that somebody would make a documentary about the carceral system in the United States of America and be unprepared to talk about race at the same time. So it was a little bit weird. And then the second panel went up, and Ms. Walz, before even being asked the question, she said, I just want to start this off by saying this is an education issue, this is a transportation issue, this is a money issue. And then somebody from the audience yelled, it's a race issue. And Ms. Walz then pointed at the person and said, yes, that was implied. To which then you could audibly hear people boo or hiss. It was very evident that the people that were sitting on the stage were not ready to have a conversation about race in connection with the carceral system in the United States of America, which it seems pretty impossible to have that conversation without talking about race. And I responded to her and even the leader of the BARD program at the time, and I said, I just want to give you all an opportunity to address what we're all talking about here, or some people have questions about. Are you resistant to talking about race because you actively don't want to, or is it because you just haven't had to in the past? And even that question seemed to have made things more tense, as they said here in the New York Times article. And it was very apparent that all the people, not all of the people, some of them were ready to talk about it, but Ms. Walz and the director of this film were definitely not only not ready to talk about race in tandem with the carceral system, they didn't want to. And they seemed to really kind of dodge the question and slough it off and not really take it seriously. And so the end of this article, or at least part of it, I want to point out, because this led to a lot of the work that I do, and it also changed the way that I see PBS and TPT and a lot of spaces, media spaces that have people that don't look like me. The end of this particular paragraph reads, the awkward discussion was made worse when the governor's office subsequently asked the television station not to circulate a video of the forum. Twin Cities Public Television deleted the video, but maintained that the action was not a result of pressure from the governor's office. A Walz staffer later told Minnesota Public Radio that the request to conceal the video had been an overreaction. And later on, after that forum was filmed, I requested, for my own resume, hey, can I take a look at it and use it for other work down the road? To which I was told the video of that forum had been deleted. And for me, this is what led me into my work, because there hasn't really been a moment, day, or year where I have had the choice to talk about race or not talk about it. It is embedded in my experience, it is who I am, and that's just the way it is. However, anybody that understands anything about making a documentary, you not only spend days, months, you might even spend years in a space and gather months of footage just to create and distill down this one presentable documentary for an audience. For these people that were on stage, they've lived entire lives and been parts of departments that have determined the livelihood of entire communities, and even created a documentary that probably had years worth of footage on it, and still felt that they didn't need to talk about race, or at some point they didn't have to. And so it showed the disparity between my experience and many of the experiences of the audience members, between us and the people that were on stage. And the thing that led me to my work was to not only create a media platform, on-site public media, redefining what public media can be, but also to create these videos for you, so you can better understand and navigate the world around you in conversations like this. Because if it can come to the point where the head of the carceral system is probably the only person that was willing to talk about race that day, the leader of the BARD initiative wasn't willing to talk about it, Gwen wasn't willing to talk about it, even the director of the actual film wasn't willing to talk about it, what does that say about where those communities are at? And how can we generate conversation and circulate information so people can possibly get on the same page? And for me, it was an extremely stressful, strange, privately humiliating and embarrassing situation. And then to learn that PBS and TPT had deleted the entire video afterwards really helped me understand that that wasn't a place that I wanted to work either, and that I wanted to create more spaces like this one where people can have conversations about this and not feel that their entire identity is going to be politicized or muted or deleted in some regard. Because if a conversation about race was so bad and reflected so poorly upon somebody's career that they had to delete it, how do you think people of color, and especially black people like ourselves, how do you think we feel when our entire experience is not only reported on or highlighted or told, but it's even a conversation about it is just simply deleted?